the tribal leaders in Libya have a long history, but that long history have not been discovered from the academic perspective. So the questions was in my mind, what cultural resources that we have as a Libyan society that we can use to empower and use this tool as a peace building mechanism instead of just relying on international standard or international concepts. So this is what the big broadened picture is about, why I'm interested in it. And then when I start learning more about it, I found it's very interesting and very fascinating to see how that process works and what kind of values that process rely on. It was really amazing experience. I was starting the process with a lot of assumptions that they're not gonna interact with me because I'm woman. I'm coming from academic perspective, so maybe I have my biases and my assumptions, which I have some in my mind, yes. But the experience with them, it was really wonderful, and it was journey helped me to reflect in myself and understand how I can approach further engagement with them. There is a lot of wisdom, there is a lot of respect, even with the way how I engage with them and they engage with me. And I think that was one of the things make it more easier and more effective engagement with me and with them. I think, to be honest, one of the influence for that is my mentor, Howard Zeher. He's considered the grandfather for restorative justice in the United States. And I was privileged enough to be his student, where I did my master's degree in Eastern Mennonite University in conflict transformation. And by learning a lot about restorative justice from the Western context, it makes me think about, we have something similar in Libya. We have something really similar that really I can resonate with and I can discover more. And he was really wonderful enough to give me the space to do that and to investigate that. And by doing this research, he considered that what I did, actually, it couldn't consider restorative justice, but from international standards, from something, it could be different from the way how the American population understand restorative justice. But both solha and restorative justice have a lot of shared values and principles. And that was for me aha moment. And that was for me, give me more motivation to continue to do this kind of work. Yeah, so solha is embedded mechanism that embedded within the Libyan culture. It's really mechanisms that rely in mediators who are actually the tribal leaders most of the time, who try to use language that have a lot of tolerance and mutual respect, trying to resolve the conflict by trying to bring the two parties together and try to have conversation about how we can resolve that conflict, what kind of options that the two parties have. And if the two parties agree, then they can sign a memo, and this memo had really the authority and the power to influence the two sides to be committed to the peace processes. And that was really similar a lot, as I told you, about restorative justice, about mediation from the Western perspective, where they try to play this role in humble way without trying really to put the light on them, where they have this moral respect that helps them to be legitimate in the society. I was focused more in small-scale conflict. So mainly my research was about murder cases, about dispute with a neighborhood, conflict between two communities. So it wasn't really in the national level. I heard a lot of story at the national level, but my actual interaction was with leaders who really tried to resolve some murder cases or dispute between two communities. And I struck me one of the murder cases where they intervene. And murder cases is so severe and so dangerous, but the way how they handled it was wise enough to prevent future revenge from the victim's family. And the way they do that, actually, to use a language that really bring a lot of comfort and empathy to the two sides, try to take the family victims far away a little bit from the way how the crime has been happened, try to advocate for the victims' right, try to look for other solutions that those can restore the harm that have been done, even beside the offender could be in the court system. I mean, the power of the leaders, actually, they focus on the relationships, how they can restore the relationships that have been affected by the crime, that have been affected by the conflict. And I think that potential, actually, it's one of the components for the peace building, is how to have this social cohesion within the community to make it more stronger and make it more resilient in order to prevent future crimes. That's a really good question, and that's also a challenge too, because the process of solha designed in a way that the women have no role in it, and also the youth, except they could be participant if they are part of the victim's family or the offender's family or the conflict parties. And within that challenge, we need to think about creative way how we can engage the two sides, youth and women, in that. And my first initiative to include both of them, it was about trying to interview some youth and women within my city, Benghazi, and try to understand if they're really willing to collaborate or to at least acknowledge the effectiveness of the leaders. And I was surprised about the outcome, because I think the majority of them, they was willing to collaborate with the leaders. Some of them, they have some, condition to order to that to be happened. But that was for me very promising to plan for future implementation where women could be part of this processes. Recently, last month, with the network, support, I have been conducted workshop with women and youth to be part of this process. However, it's amazing and it's great that's happening, but my perspective, that will require a long time to do that. And my only concern, I wish if that could be start within the grassroots level, how to create process is culturally can accept the role of women to be part of that, and instead of just bringing the women to be part of committee with tribal leaders without having this mechanism to support that participation, actual participation, actual representation. This is what we are looking for the women to, in order to be effective in that process, not just a way to check the box and say, oh well, we have women. No, we need to have this actual present that she also part of the decision making, she also part of the negotiation process. Because she do that in the grassroots level, she do it without naming it. She negotiate every day in her life. She try to have conversation with her son or with her husband who has been involved in militia groups. She tried to convince them to don't do it. She do it. But we need to encourage them to have this mechanism that they could be part of this platform where everybody could work together. I mean, actually, the network, it's given me hope. And I remember, like last year when I came here to the UN to present my outcome in the Finnish mission, I was a little spectacle how the audience will perceive my presentation, because really I'm coming from a place where I'm maybe a little bit academic, but also I'm coming from a place where I'm passionate and I have my unique idea about peace building, which is maybe sometimes it's not the same vision for many people, especially international organization. But I was surprised how we've been, have been received by a lot of intention and a lot of questions and a lot of collaboration. And since that time, I collaborated with Omana Center, which is part of the network, where we try to work also with other projects not related to Libya, but about the importance of the the local mediation mechanism in general around the world, and how they should be part of the international mediation processes in order to have effective diplomacy process. And since that time, I'm still working with them in that project, and I'm involved also with network through the training that we've been conducted in Glen Cove like 2 days ago. I was one of the trainees, and it was a privilege to be part of that. So I mean, they give me this moral support, to keep continue doing this work. Having people believe in the same vision, it's really important. Because otherwise you're going to lose faith and hope about what you're doing. You need somebody really to understand how that is crucial now within the Libya, and to resolve also the conflict in Libya as well. That's a good question. Two things actually. One thing is, don't take anything for granted. All the time, again, I'm not going to repeat it, but when I talk about my experience, don't assume because you belong to the same context, or you belong to the same place, or you speak the same language, that you understand what the people they're coming from. All the time question and ask questions and try to understand. The second thing, reflection. During the journey of the research and after the research, I'm still reflecting in this experience. It's a really rich experience, and reflection help you to do better work in the future. And one of the skills that I think every peacemaking need to have is the reflection. How to reflect in your process, how to evaluate yourself, how to be cautious about your bias and your assumptions about certain culture or certain religion. That makes me, all the time more critical to myself, but also more genuine, more authentic, which is more important.